There's a snake in my boot. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Strength Classroom. Today, I'm talking all about the core. Now, this is not going to be like a video where I talk about the best core exercises. This is more so about the functions of the core and why you, over let's say the course of months, years, weeks, should be kind of checking off all these boxes and make sure you're not weak in one of these areas. A big problem over the years was people were saying you don't want to move your spine when training your core. Anti-flexion, anti-extension, anti-rotation, anti-lateral flexion. And you should stay away from doing exercises such as extension, flexion, lateral flexion, and rotation. None of those are problematic. It only becomes a problem when you are loading up the motor pattern with far too much weight, either going through a greater range of motion that your body can handle, or doing too much volume. That's another thing that can be problematic, just an overuse injury. So I'm just gonna go over the 8 different categories I listed and some good exercises that you can put into your program so it just doesn't feel stale. Like if your idea of core training is sit-ups and back extensions, yeah, those are great exercises, but there's so many other things that you can open up your core to, which will make your body more resilient and your core a lot more stronger. So category number 1, flexion. Now I want you to think flexion is like a bicep curl, except you're doing that with your core. You are bringing your chest to your hips. So you're basically folding your body in half or trying to put your forehead between your legs. Whatever cue you want to think of to understand flexion is up to you. So flexion exercises target the muscles responsible for doing what I just said. And the exercise that you're going to think of the most here are going to be weighted sit-ups, hanging leg raises, band cable crunches, anything that folds your body in half. But you just have to make sure that the weight or load is being moved by your midsection. You're not pulling with your hands, you're not using shit ton of momentum, or else you're just turning this into an ego exercise. Category number 2, extension. Now, extension exercises focus on strengthening the muscles that support your spine's backward movement. The most common example you're going to have here is either 45-degree back extensions, or what's even better for the core area is to do like flat 90-degree back extensions because you get a lot more back stress in that area. Good mornings are another good example, especially if you are rounding down the spine. Zercher good mornings are a good example of this because you want to round the spine and then bring it back up into extension. So anything where you are extending your spine. So you're going from a flexed position to an extended position. It's the exact opposite of a sit-up. Category number 3, lateral flexion. Now this is very similar to regular flexion, what we just talked about, but you are doing it from side to side. So these are movements that target the muscles along the side of your core, most commonly known as the oblique muscles. But your QL muscle gets a lot of love too, so that's not something you want to reject in this. Don't just think you're hitting your obliques. If you are constantly injuring your side, your QL is most likely the culprit. This is coming from personal experience. So incorporating exercises like side bends to strengthen the obliques is a pretty good idea. Now here we have rotation, the demon of all core exercises. So things like Russian twists, sandbag twists, they're all great. But like I said, just make sure you're not loading up with too much weight and not going through a greater range of motion that your body is used to. Build up slowly and safely. I don't know why you wouldn't want to be strong in a rotational pattern, especially if you're some form of athlete. But the everyday average Joe can definitely benefit from this as well. Now let's move on to the anti portion of the core, which, no, it's not your ant. It's where you are preventing these things from happening. So anti-flexion means you are preventing flexion from occurring. This category of exercises challenges your core muscles to resist the forward bending forces. So things like planks, Zercher holds, sandbag carries, you're trying to prevent your body from folding forward. And what's that? So during these exercises, you want to have as straight or as neutral a spine as possible. This is where deadlifts come into play, or some very heavy good mornings. That would be an example of anti-flexion. Then we have anti-extension. These exercises focus on resisting backwards bending forces, so promoting a strong, stable core. Movements such as bird dogs, ab wheel, this is what targets the deep core muscles that enhance spinal stability. Then we have anti-lateral flexion. If you haven't guessed by now, there's a pattern here. This strengthens your core's ability to resist side bending forces and enhance the overall stability of your core. So side planks, suitcase carries, one-arm farmer's carry, suitcase deadlifts, all great examples of that. Last but not least, anti-rotation. These exercises target the core muscle to resist twisting forces, and it's crucial for maintaining stability during dynamic movements. So try incorporating exercises like a Pallof press or cable chops in your routine. The only thing I don't like about rotational movements, some people do like Pallof presses with like 30 pounds. And that's fine if you're a beginner, but after a while, you're not resisting any type of dynamic rotating forces with 30 pounds, especially if you're an athlete. If you're a rugby player, football player, hockey player, you're gonna be hit with a lot heavier forces than 30 pounds. So load this exercise up appropriately. So there you have it. None of the categories I listed today are harmful. You will not get injured. The only thing you have to manage is range of motion, load, and volume. If you have those three things covered and are not overdoing any of those three things, you will have a stronger, resilient, and injury-free core. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.